Hello and welcome back. So today we're going to be making a DIY project on how to make this nose mask. Um, I see so many people use it because of this virus. So the normal nose masks, just for those that don't know, this paper nose masks or cloth nose masks. I don't really enjoy wearing this. That is one of the things that motivated me. As an entrepreneur, you always um, think of new ways of improving. Now, this is the normal nose mask that you can easily get in the chemist for this to protect your nose, because we know this virus, when it's in the hands, it easily goes and it goes into our body through the nose or the eyeball. So that's why they said wear nose masks, not to protect you from getting the virus. Actually, it's to safeguard you, so your hand would not mistakenly touch your nose and then you breathe in the virus. Now, if you can see, this nose mask has pocket here to show you that it can actually secure you from getting the virus. All it does is to keep your nose safe and your mouth, so you don't put your hand on it when you have the virus unknown to you. The virus can live up to, I think, 1 to 7 hours on your hands. That means when you touch someone who is infected, the virus can last up to that amount of time. And within this time on your hands, so many people eat things, eat themselves, like that, and before you know, you inhale this virus from your hand. So I'm going to be doing a DIY video on how to make this nose mask at home, because so many people are bored at home. I am the most, as in, I hate being bored. So I thought of what to do to keep myself busy and decide to share it with you guys. So you making this at home for yourself and your family will keep you busy, and then you won't just be sleeping around. So now this is what we're going to be making, but this time we're not going to be using this material. We're going to be using our own African print or any leftover material you have at home. So this is my leftover material. I have already pre-cut this. This is also another leftover material. Also, I've pre-cut this African print. So for the materials to be using, first you will need a pattern sheet. If you have an A4 paper, can also work. You just need something to measure, and then later on you trace it on your material and cut. For those that their hands are not straight to cut, it's not everyone that know how to sew, so you need a pattern. You can get this pattern sheet, fine, but if you can't, just get any regular paper, newspaper, anything you can use to input your measurement and then transfer it to your fabric. You'll be needing threads of any color depending on the color of the material you'll be using. You'll be needing your pen, biro, and your pen, your ruler for measurements. You'll be needing your tape for measurement on the fabric, your scissors for cutting. You'll be needing an elastic band that's for like this. You'll be needing some pins and needle, and yeah, so let's get started. So if you already have this, you can just trace it out on your fabric directly, like just trace it out and cut. But if you trace it out and cut, you're not going to get the actual measurement unless you open it up you have to open it up like this, and then sorry so now you're going to open it up and then trace it out, but I'm not going to be using this. So what I have already done to save time, I already did my measurement. So this is a 10 inches by 9 inches paper. For those that don't know, if you have a tape, fine. If you don't have a tape, some ruler has inches, just like this. So this is inches, while these are in centimeters. So 10 inches, this is 10 inches for one side, and then 9 inches for the other side. So after you get this, because I already pre-cut and ironed this to save time, this is how the material is going to look like. Then we're going to fold to give us a smaller version, just like this. So how are you going to fold? I'm going to use this pattern sheet to show you guys. So after I've gotten my 10 inches length by 9 inches height, all I'm going to do now, I'm going to make a pleat. Those that are already familiar with the term fashion would know what I'm talking about. To make a pleat, you're just going to, don't worry if it's not equal, it's your own DIY, you're the one using it. You're going to pleat it like this. You iron it just so it can stay in place, and then you repeat. You can repeat it 3 or 4 times. What we're doing is to gather this fabric or this material so that it's not going to look big or long. It's going to be small when we're wearing it, and then it later open up after we wear it. So this is into 3 places. So if this length is okay for you now, you can just stop like this. So as you can see, after making the pleat, it's almost the same size with this red made. So now you're going to press it. Remember, this is not what I'm using. This is a pattern I'm using to show you guys how I achieved this pleat. You can see it's pleated. So when you finish, now this is the pleated version of my own. As you can see, it's the same measurement now. So after pleating it, you're going to have 4 inches down. Before this was 9, but now it's now 4. So what we're going to do now is to sew. If you have a sewing machine, just run a straight stitch at the 2 sides. But today I'm not going to be using the sewing machine because I'm going to do it for everyone to be able to sew it. If you don't have a sewing machine, no problem, you can still make this at home. So let's bring down this so we can have space to work. So now you get your needle and then you thread your needle. Remember I told you, use a matching thread that will match. Like this star print has so many colors on it, so you can choose any of the color to work with it. So I'm going to be using a red thread for this. So you're going to put your thread and then tie a knot at the end so it does not loose. So now we're ready to sew. So like I said, if you have a sewing machine, all you need to do is just run a straight stitch. What we're trying to achieve is to hold this pleat down, so when you wear it, it does not remove, just like I did with this. As you can see, I already stitched it to keep it in place, so even when it's open, it will still go back to normal. But this one now, when it is open, you see it opens completely. So we're going to close it up. So just stitch it to stay in place. You can use any kind of stitch for this. So you just repeat for this side and this side. So when I'm done stitching, I'm going to show you guys what needs to do. So as you can see, I am done. So you can see it does not open completely. So it's the same, just like this plate. This is the plate. So now next we're going to be attaching the rubber band. So we're going to measure each side 6 inches, 6 inches. That's making 12 inches. So we're going to measure out 12 inches. So this is 12 inches long. So we're going to cut, and then we'll divide it into two for the two sides. So I know you'll be wondering, what if you can't find an elastic band? No problem. There are some of our materials at home. First, I want to see. So you can see this is 6 inches. So there are some materials at home that they tend to be elastic like this when you draw them, so you can cut them and use them to replace this if you don't have. Or better still, you can just use a normal material, but this time you're not going to cut 6 inches. I'm cutting 6 inches because when you draw it, it gets longer than 6 inches. So you can just get a material and then measure like 9 or 10 inches, so it can stay well. So now, having done that, we're going to choose. Remember, you're going to cut this material, I didn't remember to tell you guys, in two places. That's a 10 inches by 9 inches times 2. You're going to cut it 2 places. If you like, you can mix the materials. You can decide to make one material fabric, the Ankara print, and another part you can just use the normal material to make it. So but I decided to use both front and back to be the same material. So you're going to choose one of them to attach this band. So you're going to leave like half inch, you're going to leave half inches allowance, or better still quarter inch. You're going to leave quarter inch, and then like this is what I mean. This is the end. You're going to leave a little space. This space we're leaving is our sewing allowance, as you can see. Okay, so this is the space we're leaving. This is our sewing allowance, this one here. I'm going to sew. So you're going to attach this band with your thread now. You can use any method of sewing. You can use a machine or you can use your hand. For this purpose of this video, I'm using needle and thread, so everyone can be able to do it, whether you have a machine or not. And don't forget, always tie it at the end so it does not loose before you sew it round. If you're a hairdresser, you'll be familiar with this. If you are a lady, you'll be familiar with the method the hairdressers use in fixing your wig to tie it. So you just tie it, and then you're going to repeat for the other end. Remember, we are sewing it inwards because we're going to be placing this on it. If you sew it from this side outwards like this, you're not going to get it. So you're going to sew it inward like this. So when you flip it, when you turn it, you're going to get the accurate stuff. So now we've done for this side, we're going to do for this other side. We're going to leave 1/4 inch. We'll bring our band to this place like this, and we'll also stitch. And please, when sewing, be careful so you won't injure yourself with the needle. And then you tie it before cutting. So now we already have one end, so we're going to repeat for the other side. So now we have our band fixed just like this. Now this is where the tricky part is going to be. Remember, this is a single sheet, but this DIY is a double sheet. That is to say, you can either choose to wear the front or you wear the back. So because we're not sewing it with a needle, a sewing machine to make the edge neat, we're going to be using our hands. So we're going to sew and then turn over. So this is the front part. This is the front layer. So to keep this in place so it does not move while we're sewing, you can decide to pin it down, but when using a pin, it's a bit risky because the pin can end up injuring you. So what I do is I just stitch it tight, so when I unfold it, I would lose it, just to keep it in place so you don't sew on it mistakenly. So this is how it's going to be. So this is the front. We're also going to take the back piece, the front sides. The front sides are going to face each other. Like this is the way this one is. This is how the other one is. So we're going to face it on each other like this. Front sides facing each other. And now is where your pin comes in. You're going to make sure the edges are aligned together, and then you pin it in place so it does not shift when you're sewing. So you're going to pin them like that in place. So after pinning it in place, you're going to choose your starting point and your ending point. You're going to leave a small opening because this is a back part of both materials. So this is not how we're going to use it, because this is the rough part. It's not meant to show. We're going to stitch it around and then we'll turn it. So we're going to choose where we want to open it up to turn it. So I'm going to mark from here, like you're going to like leave like 1.5 inch allowance for turning. Here you're going to be leaving this small space here for turning, so you would not forget and sew it up. You could also pin it down, put a pin, so when you see the pin you'll know you have to stop, you have to start and stop there. So now from this place we're going to sew round and stop here, leaving this opening for turning. So now we'll thread our needle again. This time you can make the thread longer because you're going to be sewing a long piece. And don't forget to tie the knot. So there, let's start. Remember, we're starting from one end and then we'll stop the other end. So for this stitch, I'll advise you use I'm not too good with stitches, a double layer, if I must say. Sew it 2 times, but you can also choose to use a straight stitch since you're the one wearing it. But if you want it to last, don't leave enough space, don't leave enough gap, so that your needle, your thread, sorry, will not show. So you're going to keep sewing like this. And if you have a sewing machine, it will be faster for you. All you just need to do is just sew in 5 minutes time. This DIY project is a 5 minutes project. So this is my stitch. As you can see, no much allowance there. So you're going to sew like this till you come back to the space where you left. So when I get back, I'm going to show you guys what next to do. So I've sewn, as you can see, from the beginning of this point down to the ending where we'll put the pin. So this is the opening we're going to use to turn it. So what you're going to do now is to tie this knot. Take away the pin. So we're going to tie our work so it does not lose when we're trying to open it. Then we'll cut our thread. So now this is, as you can see, this is the back part. That's why I told you we're going to need to hide it. All our stitches are showing at this is a rough edge. So now through this opening we're going to flip it open so that we can bring out the two front front sides of the material. So what you're going to do, you're going to put in this thumb, go to the end, push this in so you can bring it out, and be careful, the opening is small, so when you force it to come out, it can end up getting a tear from the material because we did not use a sewing machine, so it's a bit fragile now. It can lose easily until when we close it up. So you bring out the points. Do the same for the other side. Okay, so as you can see, it's neat now. So these are our marks already. It's ready. So we're going to lose this that I tied here. So this is our marks. So don't forget we have an opening where we turned this out. So we're going to look for it here. This is the opening. So we're going to close it up. If you have a sewing machine, you can just run a straight stitch all around, but we're going to use invincible sewing method to close this stitch so it does not show. So what we're going to do, this is where the opening is. So we're going to, first of all, so we've closed the opening. As you can see, no one will know you turned it open from here. So yeah, we have our face marks, our nose marks. Thank you for watching. You can share the video. Thank you.